Chapter 2. I sat on the edge of a gurney in St. Mark's ER, marveling at how different the daytime hospital crowds were. Sick kids, daytime drunks, and hypochondriac elderly, all lined up in a disorderly queue. It had been almost 30 years since I was last in an emergency room during the day. Most of my trips came late night on a Friday or Saturday, sometimes serious, other times dealing with a dislocated shoulder or knee and sat amongst the shot-up gangbangers or beaten hookers. A heavily tattooed guy who looked bigger than me was wheeled in, his left hand cuffed to the bed rail. He wore an orange top that looked to be covered in a mix of his and others' blood. I heard a familiar voice and suddenly became envious of his position. "Where is he?" snapped Marcela. "He's in 3. A semi-terrified student nurse replied. The side curtain to my bed was hurled back, and there she stood. My heavily pregnant ex, Marcela. She wore a mix of anger and concern that made her nostrils flare and would put the bravest man to the sword. "God damn, Jack. What the hell is this? I was on a job." It got a little out of hand. She cut the shirt off my back. It had dried and stuck to my trap wounds, but was once again pouring freely. "Jesus Christ, he stuck you good." Concern filled her voice. "You should see the other guys." "Plural?" I nodded and hissed as the antiseptic stung right down to the nerve endings. "I think I've some glass in my ear, if you could have a look," I confessed. "I'll have someone from ENT. "Can't you do it?" I said as I strained to turn my head and get a look at her. "Fine. Are you able to come with me on Tuesday? I'll pick you up after work if you like. The wounds are superficial. You got lucky this time." She left the cubicle for a moment, and when she returned, it was with the needle and thread needed to patch me up. I sat still for her as she sewed, then taped me up, and when finished, I took her hand and guided her round in front of me. So we were eye to eye, with only her bump and heaving boobs between us. "How's our bun behaving?" I asked. "She isn't. I'm up all night most—" "She?" Marcela nodded. "I found out at one of the appointments you couldn't make." "I was working." "I know. I'm not getting at you. Believe it or not, you're not my every waking thought." "I prefer not to believe that, to be honest," I smirked. She did too. "I know you never saw us together, and this little— she was an accident, albeit a happy one." "Jack." She sighed. "Let me take care of you both. When we met, I was traveling 300+ days a year and popping pain pills like gum, but I'm not him anymore." "So you're not abusing pain medication daily?" "I can make you happy, Mars. I love you." "You're just saying that because—" "I'm just saying that because I love you." "You're saying that because you're a good man. You see me and your daughter, and you want to do the right thing. But you don't want all this 24/7. You live on a boat." This was our argument, well-trodden and ours. I moored just down from Venice. I lived on a 41 Gibson because I didn't have a lot of things, liked the water, and didn't like the idea of not being able to change my neighbors. For Marcela, it was different. The boat was more than a boat. It was a visual representation of how unsuited to anything that resembled a normal life I was. How, if we gave it a try, it would all end in tears. I'd come home late from a stakeout, waking her and the kid. She'd sleep in and miss her shift. The kid would get loose from whatever playpen I hadn't constructed correctly and go over the edge into the murky drink below. We'd become parents to a dead child, despise one another, and go our separate ways so we could make 2 other people chronically unhappy. "Mars, it's just a boat," I pleaded. She ran her soft left palm down my weathered face, signaling she was done inputting into the conversation. Her eyes were sadder than when we first met. I didn't like the thought of that, so I banked right. Look, I'm heading out of town tonight on work for a few days. Can we go somewhere after your shift? Tonight's not great, she said. It doesn't have to be anything major. I can just pick you up, drive you home, and make you dinner. I have plans tonight, Jack. Sorry, I nodded. I need to get back to the office. Nina left a message, so when I follow up with her, I'll give her your best. Ask her about being godmother while you're at it. Yeah? That's what I was calling you about earlier. If anything ever happened to the pair of us, she's the right amount of headstrong required to raise any kid of yours. Jack Gecko. She kissed me gently on the lips. She'd been eating cinnamon recently. I took my leave of St. Mark's, stealing a parting glance in her direction, as I always did, when I exited the hospital. I checked my watch as I changed lanes and drove home, where I packed light and locked up my sidearm in the small safe I had sunk into the floor next to my bedside cabinet. With the boat locked up, I headed to the office to clear the decks before I skipped out of town. I'd left the blinds drawn, but the window open, meaning sand had built up over the windy evenings. It was now boarding on my desk and good recliner, which I used unless there was a well-paying client coming in for a visit. The sunlight cut through the blinds and hit the cheap floor coated with sand, which made it look as though I had dozens of gold bars just waiting to be cashed in. I grabbed a gym towel and dragged it across the desk, clearing it of beach blonde, before getting an ice pack from the chest freezer and wrapping it. I pressed the cooling towel to the back of my neck as I dropped into my recliner and checked my messages. One new. Jack, it's Bruce Oakley. Look, I hate leaving messages on these things. Call me back 5550131. Message deleted. I dialed the VA, put up with the automated girl, and punched in Fuscinello's extension. He came on the line hot. Jesus Christ, you big brute. I said I wanted this handled discreetly. It's all over the afternoon news. This is not what I'm paying you for. You wanted me to get to the bottom of it, right? Bottom got. It's not my fault her two goddamn Marine sons wanted to play patty cake. And another thing. Watch your tone with me, Fuscinello, unless you want to find out just how brutish I can be. Sorry, Fuscinello offered. Me too, I got stabbed a bit. It's made me a little angry. The Costigan lady had $1.2 million in laundered bills in her basement, so I'd imagine she'll try to cut a deal. PD will likely be at your doorstep over the next day or so for a statement. Thanks, Jack. You know, my kid brother used to worship you back in the day. Any chance of a signed T-shirt or something? Sure. Throw his address in with the check for the final invoice, and I'll send him something. I hung up and opened my mail. It was garbage. Circulation nonsense and utilities. I opened one that felt light, and something dropped from the envelope. It caught the corner of my eye as it fluttered by my desk before disappearing under the wheelbase of my chair. I turned left, then right, still couldn't see it. It was going to make me move. Fuck's sake! I got to my feet, slamming the ice pack onto the desk in frustration, and moved the chair out of the way. It was the left side of a torn ticket to some wrestling museum. The location was somewhere on the right-hand side of the stub, but the date was still there and had passed, so it was most likely torn from admission rather than any mistake. There was no return address on the envelope, but it came out of a mail center, so if I tracked down the ID number in the franked ink atop of the stamp, it could narrow it down to half a city. I worked the top drawer of my desk open and dropped it in there for safekeeping. Unpaid mysteries went to the very bottom of a list of things I was putting off doing in life. When I was done, I felt the draw of curiosity come upon me. Before I could wrestle against it, I found myself back on the road, driving back towards St. Mark's Hospital. Marcela knew my car better than anyone, so I parked across the street from the hospital entrance and smoked a cigarette from behind my hand. I checked my watch. If I'd left, then I would have had enough time to clear security, clean up in the airport restroom, and eat something quasi-nutritious. The front doors swung open and shut. Bodies came and went, yet none of them sparked my interest. It was the sorry in what she said. It rang odd in my ears and gave me enough of a hunch that I would not have been able to function in Puerto Rico without knowing why it sat so weird. I checked my watch. If I'd left then, I would have had enough time to clear security, clean up in the airport restroom, and shovel a sandwich into me as I hauled ass towards my gate. The doors opened and closed, and still there was nothing of interest. I'd gone over all the bumps on the road Marcela and I had shared together, looking for moments where I could have done things differently. And while I knew these moments definitely existed, I couldn't quite figure out how I could have made better choices and still have been me. I shook the thought from the forefront of my mind. It served me no good. When I thought of us, I thought of those early days, those weeks of firsts. First sight, first kiss, first dance, first date. It was all so fresh and full of promise. It didn't stand a chance in my world. I checked my watch. If I'd left then, I would have had enough time to clear security, throw some water in my face in the airport restroom, and haul ass towards my gate. The doors opened and my eyes widened. There she was, radiating enough beauty to land planes at night. She was giggling and dressed in one of her slightly fitted black numbers. It was only then that I realized she wasn't alone. A clean-cut doctor type in a light gray suit walked side by side with her linked to his arm. A knot appeared in my throat. That was it. That was the meaning behind the odd-sounding sorry. What an idiot I had been. What an idiot I was continuing to be. I'd assumed that because she was carrying my kid, that I had time, that nobody would be interested in her, and more importantly, she wouldn't be interested in them. I was wrong. Heart-achingly so. Dr. Dressed-Well walked her to his sensible car, opened the passenger door, and held her hand as she got herself in and comfortable before he closed it and rounded the vehicle. I checked my watch. If I followed them and ruined their date, Marcela would kill me before Frank had the chance to demand his money back. There was no getting out of this one. I was too far from the ropes. The best I could do would be to tap out, take the L, and bide my time. Love, like wrestling, was all about timing.